Good evening and welcome to Poland Daily. I'm Natalia Moczulska and this is the news. Rome hosted an international conference organized by Polish and Italian lawyers on the threats to modern Europe, posed by plans for the so-called federalization of the European Union. It was attended by prominent lawyers from Italy, Poland, and Spain. Europe is changing before our eyes, and the federalization plan being pushed by left-wing politicians carries threats to its future. This is becoming increasingly clear from the perspective of Poland as well as Italy. This is not federalization, which leaves autonomy and sovereignty, in fact, in many areas to the member states. It just eliminates sovereignty, eliminates freedom, starting with freedom of speech. The conference in the heart of Rome, at the Italian Senate, was organized by two universities, Poland's Nicholas Copernicus University and Rome's Foro Italico University. Here there are also these special Italian relations, precisely between Italian scholars, between experts, people who simply evaluate reality, and also form various conclusions about the future of the European Union. And the future of the European Union, thanks to the leftist Brussels elite, is becoming increasingly uncertain.
In this moment, there is also, Mario Draghi said this, there is a big crisis of EU. And we want to understand under a social and legal vision what is the EU.
A Polish-Italian Civil Rights Institute is soon to be established in Rome to deal with the increasing bending and violation of rights by governments and institutions in Europe.
In Rome, depends on the Copernicus Superior School, when it is a Polish.
Also resounding strongly at the conference was the theme of the new threats posed by the increasingly open violation of the law by those in power in Poland, supported by Germany and Brussels. Father Michał Olszewski is an example of how basic freedoms of human rights are treated, and I am glad that today, here in the Italian Senate in Rome, in the very historical center of the city, that is the cradle of our civilization, we can talk about what is happening in Poland today and make international opinion aware of the threat we face. Michał Skwarzyński, defender of the detained and tortured priest Olszewski, also spoke at the conference. This is of course a thing that Italians find completely appalling, because for them, locking up a priest or leading a priest in handcuffs and using handcuffs all day are things that are completely incomprehensible. Just like the many other examples of blatant violations of the law by the Tusk government in Poland, which are becoming more and more widely reported here in Italy as well. Maksymilian Maszenda, Republika, Rome. It was a night of heavy fighting on the Eastern Front. Ukrainians launched a successful attack on Russian soldiers, destroying tanks and armored vehicles. But in Russia's Kursk region, where Ukrainian troops have penetrated, Putin's barbarians are increasingly effective in stopping Kiev's counteroffensive. Soldiers are waiting for long-range weapons to attack targets deep inside Russia. A courageous action by Ukrainian troops. In just one shelling, the enemy lost 26 tanks and armored vehicles targeting Ukrainian civilians. For tactical reasons, the services did not give the exact location. A Russian Su-30 fighter jet and 24 Shahed combat drones were shot down near Crimea. It is known that in addition to the equipment, the Russians also lost more than 1,200 soldiers. The Ukrainian counteroffensive continues. Our operations here in the Kursk region are well planned. We are trying to attack and minimize losses. However, there is more than just good news coming from the front. In the Kursk region, which the Ukrainians entered more than a month ago, the situation has begun to turn around. The Russians have gathered forces and are hitting Ukrainian targets. The Russians have started retaliatory actions against our attacks in Kursk. This is a response to our plan. We also see that the Belarusians are stockpiling weapons near the border with Ukraine. The Ukrainian offensive relies primarily on drones, with which the military is attacking deep inside Russia. Soldiers have also taken tanks and other armored vehicles into the Kursk region, but long-range weapons are crucial for launching precision attacks. The West must unequivocally give Ukraine the ability to flare effectively military targets, meaning munitions factories, armament factories, critical infrastructure systems, especially when it comes to oil resources, when it comes to refineries. The U.S. ground-to-ground missile system and their British and French counterparts would give Ukraine the ability to attack up to 250 Russian military bases in Voronezh or Rostov-on-Don, among others. Putin says that the transfer of such weapons to Ukraine by NATO countries would mean that the alliance is actively joining the war and threatening to retaliate not only against Ukraine. This is also what U.S. President Joe Biden fears. The Baltic states, also directly exposed to Russian aggression, are more supportive.
Justified.
It is justifiable for Ukraine to use such weapons, attacking Russia's military infrastructure. We are in favor of such a solution and hope that the United States and the United Kingdom will allow it. All the more so because Russia is already testing the reactions of regional countries to the threat, and these vary. In a short period of time, Russian drones flew into the airspace of Latvia, Romania, and Poland. The Latvians located a crashed Shahed combat drone with the help of their Black Hawks. The Romanians picked up 2 F-16 aircraft and warned the local population. In Poland, the search for the object, which the services first reported had appeared in Polish airspace, lasted 2 weeks. After that time, the services found that the object had not violated Polish space. That's why Lithuanian authorities want to impose an order for the immediate shooting down of Russian objects, and Latvians are appealing to NATO to increase the alliance's air defense. Russian aggressors, together with their satellite country Belarus, are also threatening our borders, and this concerns us, Romania, Poland, but also other NATO countries. That is why it is so important to stop Russia's imperial ambitions, already through Ukraine. Marcin Szewczak, Republika. During a meeting in Parliament between Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk and the Marshal of the Sejm and Senate, the head of government admitted not only to deliberately breaking the law, but also compared Poland to Germany just after World War II, where foreign troops were stationed in the area. Their presence, according to the head of government, was supposed to guarantee the restoration of democracy, an inadequate situation, but the Prime Minister, a historian, rather consciously used this comparison. Prime Minister Donald Tusk's words about intervention by foreign forces may have infuriated many. I would not like us in Poland to ever find ourselves in a situation where an external force is necessary to guarantee our constitutional order, as that would be a tragedy. Is putting the issue this way threatening the intervention of external forces in Poland? Not only does he announce violations of the law himself, but he also threatens with foreign intervention. Members of the ruling coalition seem to downplay the Prime Minister's statement. It's about threats of external intervention. That's what the Prime Minister was talking about. I don't know at all what you are talking about. No, I think that here we are in a very big legal dispute, very big chaos. However, the current government is responsible for this chaos. Donald Tusk himself has admitted that he is deliberately breaking the law, and in order to avoid the alleged scenario of intervention by foreign powers, it is necessary to find within oneself strength and determination. After all, in the case of the executive branch, this is what we are paid to do, to take risks and make decisions that will sometimes also be questioned by you. Meaning I, in any case, will continue to make such decisions in full knowledge of the risk that not all of them will conform completely to the criteria of the rule of law. According to Law and Justice deputies, such words from the mouth of the head of the government should never be uttered. I have to say, those were outrageous words. That he has no legal tools, so he will use others because, as he said, he has a duty to act. Surely these are words from some authoritarian regime, or even worse. It's hard not to get the impression that the Prime Minister is simply looking for justifications for his decisions that go against the law. We know this from history. Wojciech Jaruzelski also sought justifications for declaring martial law. So, as a historian Donald Tusk should remember this very well, although this is not the only statement by the Prime Minister that indicates a premeditated violation of the law. Today, we have the need to act in terms of a fighting democracy. That is to say, we will probably make mistakes more than once, or commit acts that, according to some legal authorities, will be incompatible or not fully in accordance with the provisions of the law, but nothing relieves us of the obligation to act every day. Constitutionalists and lawyers have no doubt that Donald Tusk does not seek to uphold the law in Poland. What is happening now has nothing to do with protecting the rule of law, protecting democracy. In my opinion, nothing at all. Violating moral norms, but directly also violating legal norms, that is, everything that constitutes the constitutional order of any country. If you look at history, all dictatorships started with this as well. Since December 13th, 2023, those in power have illegally taken over public media and the National Prosecutor's Office, among other things. In turn, on September 6th, Attorney General Adam Bodnar announced the introduction of the institution of active regret for judges appointed after the December 2017 reform of the National Court Register. The judges will have to make a statement that they have made a lifetime mistake. The announced measures can only be compared to the repression faced by judges during the martial law period by the communist regime. The institution of self-criticism proposed by the government is clearly associated with the period of Stalinist terror, and it is a disgrace that it would be applied to judges appointed to office in accordance with the laws passed by the parliament. Friday is the last day of a visit to Poland by the Venice Commission, which was invited by those in power to assess work on an amendment to the law on the Public Prosecutor's Office. It assumes the separation of the functions of the Minister of Justice and the Prosecutor General. Interestingly, they did not want to answer a question about Prime Minister Donald Tusk's violation of the law. This silence may mean that Donald Tusk simply has approval to carry out lawlessness in Poland. Every day I have to make decisions that can be very easily criticized and challenged from the legal side. Law and Justice is organizing a protest in front of the Justice Ministry's headquarters tomorrow in connection with violations of the law by those in power. The organizers stress that anyone who cares about a Poland where the law is respected is invited. Łukasz Żmuda, Republika. The Polish government is already looking for excuses for failing to fulfill its key promise to the young. The 0% loan for the first home will most likely not happen. It will either not be for everyone or not interest-free. Next year's budget is burdened with staggering debt, and savings are already being seen in pensions. How much tighter will seniors have to tighten their belts? 0% credit is unlikely to happen. Instead, there will be a record debt and lower pension indexation. These are the forecasts for next year. As we can see, the deficit will reach as much as 289 billion zloty, and the debt may even reach nearly 60%. What will this look like? And why is the government looking for savings among the most vulnerable group in society, pensioners? Today, I took a closer look at the situation. There has never been such a slogan of a 0% interest loan. Let's clarify that in this program, 0% can only be obtained by families with many children. Any other participant in this program will have an interest loan. So to speak at all about this imposition of such a slogan, that it is a 0% loan, is fundamentally false, deceitful, and untrue. However, that's exactly the 0% loan that Donald Tusk was talking about. A 0% loan for people who will buy their first apartment if we win and introduce the 0% program. The coalition cannot agree on this issue. On top of that, it has serious problems financing its election promises. I think we will introduce the 0% loan and force will not be required. We are discussing this between ministers. Will you get along or not? I think we will get along. The government is already looking for savings among the most vulnerable in society. Pensioners are being encouraged. On top of that, the 14th pension will be 869 zloty lower than a year earlier. The development minister talks about working longer and the retirement age. The retirement age was once rightly raised. Wrongly, it was lowered. But today, it is a decision in the hands of politicians. After years when pension valorization was a dozen %, the government has decided that the second pension valorization, for the time being, will not be. Then the time will return that the indexations will be in pennies. They will reach just 2 or 3%. Pensioners will not lose money if they continue to work. Money for seniors is promised by Katarzyna Pełczyńska-Nałęcz so that they don't take money from the Social Security. But the 14th pension will then be postponed. What is happening? The government is looking for savings. Some of these savings cause such pro-cyclical, that is, slowed down actions, because investments are also being cut. But it is also supposed to get pensioners. In the coalition debate, there is also a discussion about a loan, support for housing, about whether 0% loans should be introduced. These are additional costs for the budget, but these are also voices raised in the government that this is actually raising prices and supporting developers very strongly. The program was supposed to be for young people who are left without support after other housing programs were terminated, not for developers. Loans in Poland are already the most expensive in Europe. Edyta Hołdyńska, Republika. That's all for the news tonight. Thank you so much for joining us, and have a wonderful evening.